Welcome to the Wandering Road, a place where the unseen moves all around us. The stories you'll hear aren't just whispered legends, they're shadows that cling, footsteps that follow, and whispers that never fade. Every turn pulls you closer to the unknown, and once you've heard what waits here, the night will never feel the same again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Wandering Road podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today is our Halloween episode. And what's even more awesome is that it's one coming out on a Halloween day, because last year our Halloween episodes didn't line up when Halloween actually was. And for today's episode, for our Halloween special, we have a very special guest joining us, and that is Kajsa from Kajsa Spooky Stories. Welcome to the show, Kajsa.
Thanks for having me.
Emails to like folks that that are like pretty much bigger accounts, and it's like, will she respond? Will she not respond? And then you actually did, and I was like, oh my god, this is freaking awesome.
I
So
love that.
so super excited to talk to you tonight. I think we could go ahead and jump right in it. Kajsa, what got you into the whole paranormal type of work?
Okay, so when I was 23-ish years old, I lived in this apartment. And I should start by saying my whole life I kind of had like little experiences here and there. But there was one experience that really just kind of set it off for me. I lived in this studio apartment, and I was laying in bed one day and I was alone. I was by myself, and there was a bathroom behind me, and the bed was like right here and the bathroom's like right here. And I got this really bad feeling, and then I started hearing this like ting 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 on the walls. I was like, what is that? And so about 2 minutes of me sitting there being terrified for no reason, I hear something in my ear go, just like that, like it said my name. I jumped out of my bed so fast. I ran out of the house, and my friend lived on it was a basement studio, and my friend who I was renting from lived at the top. I ran outside and I went to go sit on the steps. Now, where I was sitting on the steps, the bathroom window that I had just heard that from was behind me. So I'm sitting on the steps, not really thinking about the bathroom window, just terrified, literally shaking because of what I just heard. And I hear this knock, knock, knock. And then I hear someone in a woman's voice go, Kajsa, Kajsa, look at me. I'm getting chills like right now. I don't even know. I can't even like tell you how terrified I was because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, there's no way that I'm hearing this right now. And then I heard it again. And she was like, I know you can hear me. Look at me. And I couldn't move. And my heart is pounding out of my chest. And this happened like 2 or 3 more times of her just knocking and saying the same thing and then laughing a little bit until I finally jumped up after I was frozen with fear and I ran to the front of the house. It was super early, like late in the morning. It was like 5 o'clock or something in the morning. I don't remember the time frame. It was very early, late morning. When I say that, I mean like late into the night, early morning. And I ran into his house like without knocking, and I ran into his bedroom and I was hysterical, and was trying to tell him what I saw, and he was like, Kaisa, are you on drugs? And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I swear to God, this is what I heard. And a lot of people don't believe that story, but like it happened to me. And ever since that happened to me, I've kind of been like, there has to be something else. There has to be, because of what I experienced.
So I've personally had instances where I've heard my name called, and that was kind of the gist of it. But for something to be intelligent and just constantly pick at you, it's like, I know you can hear me. That is so fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Was that the only time that happened, or
No, it didn't happen like a few occasions. It just happened. Before I got up and moved, she did it a few times. Like she knocked and repeated herself. She just kept knocking and saying, Kaisa, look at me. And then she'd say, I know you can hear me. Look at me. And then she would laugh a little bit and say, look at me. It probably happened like 3 times before I could finally move. Because when I tell you I was like frozen in fear, I didn't know whether me standing up, if I was going to get chased. Flight or fight was just totally enabled in that point, in that moment. It took a couple times before I finally was like, you got to get the fuck up and go. So I got up and I left. It didn't happen after that ever again. Thank God, knock on wood somewhere, because that was too much for me to handle.
I could completely understand that. So going off of that experience, you bolted to your friend's place. You're like, fuck this, I'm not gonna be here anymore. Eventually you had to come back.
No, I
How
moved.
did you moved
I
immediately after
moved
that? You
immediately.
just you just moved immediately. Wow, okay.
Yeah,
That's
I went to go stay with a friend until I found another apartment.
for people that I've interviewed in the past, it's like, yeah, experienced this, but I had to go back inside and kinda just deal with it. I don't blame you for doing I don't
Nope.
blame you for doing that at all.
I didn't even go back in that apartment that morning. Or my sister was actually coming to visit that day from Florida. She came to visit me that very day, actually. And she believes in this type of stuff. Stuff has happened to her. So I told her what happened. I'm in recovery. So the first question that people would always ask me during that time was like, were you on drugs? And I'm like, no, I was actually like stone cold sober. I told my sister and my friend, you have to come in the apartment and you have to pack with me because I cannot do this alone. So I never went into that apartment alone again. And the next time I went into that apartment was to get my stuff out of the apartment. I was not doing that alone. I was not going back in that apartment alone.
How long were you in that apartment before that happened? Like, were things fine prior to that, or did you ever feel something was kinda odd, but you kinda dealt with it?
So things were always kind of odd and scary for me, because I was like drinking a lot at the time and partying a lot at the time, and I feel like I was kind of attracting a lot of a lot of negative energy. I hadn't ever been alone in the apartment before, so I had normally always had somebody with me. That was my very first time ever being alone in the apartment. I was either there with somebody else or I was with somebody at their house. And it was because I was kind of afraid to be alone and I didn't know why. So nothing had happened before that that I can remember. There may have been something, but I don't remember it. That was the first and last time that something that I can remember happened. But it was, I remember looking up like the history of the land after that. I like drilled my landlord slash friend about everything. Like, has anyone died here? Some like I was like, something is here, something bad is here. And my sister was like, it's probably attached to you. And she was probably right.
You said, like, you were sober at the time. Do you think, like, whatever you partook in previously may have attracted something to you, or were there previous instances in your life when you were younger where you, like, kinda experienced the paranormal and was like, "Oh, okay, that's odd," but never really paid mind to it?
No, I paid mind to it. That was just the only experience that like shook me to my core. And it was the only one that was so solidifying. There was no doubt in my mind after that happened because I was actually hearing something like it was like a human was behind me. It was literally sounded like someone was just sitting behind me talking to me. That just made me really believe because of how real that was. But I had had other stuff happen to me my whole entire life. And I've been told this and I've kind of known this for a while. And I don't know how to use it at all. I am clairvoyant and I'm an empath, but I don't know how to use that ability. So it'll come to me in like very strange ways. Like I can give you an example. The other day, I was watching like this YouTube channel, right? And the girl was like, think of something in your head right now. She said, think of a Jeep Wrangler and then try to see if you can, if in the next like 3 days you can see a white Jeep Wrangler. And although this was presented by somebody else, this was still crazy. So in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to look for a white Jeep Wrangler. And I just like randomly said that a couple hours later in my head. And the next day, one of my followers messaged me and sent me a video of the fact that she had been seeing white Jeep Wranglers everywhere. And she like showed me a video of like the white Jeep Wrangler. I even said to her, I have the text message. I said, tell me right now that is not a white Jeep Wrangler. And she was like, that is. And I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, and stuff like that will happen all the time. Like I said, although that was kind of influenced by an outside source, that is just a very small example of things that will happen. Like, I'll think of things before. Like, I remember one time I was in Brooklyn, that's where I live. I was walking down the street and a thought popped in my head about this actor, like randomly popped in my head. This actor popped in my head. And I looked up and there was like this huge mural of this actor on one of the walls because there's a lot of graffiti in Brooklyn. And it was right before I had thought about that person. And stuff like that happens to me on a regular basis. I'll dream about stuff and it will happen, like, but I can't control it in any way, shape, or form. So that type of stuff happened to me. And then scary stuff would happen to me. I'm pretty susceptible to it my whole entire life.
Continuing with that concept that your empathic abilities, your clairvoyance, you thinking about things, I can honestly say that's happened to me as well, where I would have, particularly where I would have dreams and I would dream of a particular scenario. And in that dream, something bad would happen. It would be like maybe months or like a year later. And I would be in that same exact situation prior to that negative thing happening. And then I would just remember that dream. I would get like deja vu. I get a lot of deja vu. I don't know if that's the same thing for you.
I was just
Um,
about to ask you that. I was just about to ask you that.
yeah, then I do the complete opposite of what I did in the dream to kind of safeguard myself. So, like, what are your thoughts on precognition? And do you tend to remember those dreams and then like you're in a situation where you get deja vu and you remember back and then you just kind of do the opposite, or how does that work?
Deja vu for me isn't that involved. It's more of like I just get it a lot, like where I'll get this feeling where, say, like I'm like going through my purse, suddenly I'll remember like so vividly me going through my purse. I remember one time I was going through my purse and I was looking for something, and then I just knew in my head that I was about to find I was looking for like this orange vape for the longest time, but I wasn't looking for it in that moment. I was looking for lip gloss. In my head I was like, you're about to find this orange vape. And I found that's the only one and only time that I have actually had deja vu and knew what was going to happen before. That was the only time. Other times I just have it to where, like, normal deja vu, where you feel like you've been in that scenario before, but not me predicting what's going to happen next.
One thing I want to come back to that I kind of honed in on that you mentioned, it's like throughout your life, things would happen paranormal wise and like scary things would happen. Do you mind sharing what some of those were and like what was the earliest you could remember?
The earliest I can remember of ever experiencing anything paranormal was not that severe. We definitely lived in a haunted house when I was younger, and I still have dreams about this house. My stepdad, he could definitely see spirits, but he never talked about it. And I'm sitting in my room by myself. There's no one in the room, and all of a sudden, this sock just comes flying over my shoulder, and I was like 6 at the time, and I just remember being like, what was that? And I like turned behind me and there's no one there. And it like went flying in the air. For scary things that have happened, I know things happened to me when I was like really young, a lot of sleep paralysis. But when I turned like 18 is when things started to get bad. So I remember one time I was laying down in my sister's bed in my mom's house, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't remember exactly. I just talked about this. I don't remember exactly what started it. I look up in the closet, and in the closet I see this woman's, you have to stop. Please, Leo. Leo, go. Leo, go, go, go. I'm so sorry. There's this woman in the closet and I can only see her head, and she has brown short hair, and she is shaking her head like this super super fast, and she's smiling. And so her head is just like going like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and she's smiling. And I literally could not move. I freaked out. I finally jumped up. I went and got my mom, and I was like, we have to go to a hotel. We have to go to a hotel right now. And my mom was like, we're not going to a hotel. What is wrong with you? And I told her what I saw, and she was like, I said, you have to sleep with me. I'm not going back in there by myself. And so my mom at 18 years old, I didn't even live with her at that point, had to come sleep with me. And I never slept at her house ever again after that happened. That was a scary one. And then I would say probably the worst one that happened when I was 18. This is a dark time for me as well. I was drinking a lot during the time, but I was working a lot and I was in between shifts. I was sober, it was during the day. I was taking a nap and I was laying on the couch, and I remember hearing this voice in my ear. It was a very deep, like it sounded, the only way I can describe it is it sounded demonic. And it said, get out, you fucking bitch, like in my ear, but like in this growling tone, like it was like, get out, you fucking bitch, like right in my ear. And it jolted me awake. As I was like waking up, I still heard the last part of the sentence. So it wasn't like I was asleep the whole entire time. Like I heard that voice as I was like sitting up. That scared me. I knew at that point that something was definitely attached to me because more things happened too. Like I know this sounds really cliche, and I didn't even know what this was until I started doing like a paranormal channel, because I didn't know what mimics were until I started doing a paranormal channel. If that's what you want to call it, a mimic. I think that I've experienced a mimic before, and that was creepy. It didn't scare me as much at the time because of the context of it, but it was weird. Now that I know what it is scary.
When you say that it was a mimic, what was it doing that you kinda realized, like, "Hey, there's something else going on here?" Like, was it imitating mom, dad, your siblings?
My sister. So I was at my own apartment. I lived in St. Augustine, and my mom and sister lived in Jacksonville, and I had my own apartment with two of my friends. And I was laying down, and I got up for work around like 10 o'clock every morning. And my sister had been staying over at my house a lot during that time. And I woke up at I think the clock said like 9:45 or 9:37 or something. And my sister opened the door and she said, hey, you have to get up for work. And I was like kind of really tired. And I remember looking at the clock, and I was like, yeah, I know. And she shut the door, and I fell asleep. And I had this dream that I was being rolled in like my blankets, like someone was like taking my blankets and rolling them around me and then slowly pushing me on the floor. And it was something like super dark, and I couldn't see it. I could just feel like its presence and how dark it was. And I woke up on the floor wrapped around in my blankets. When I got up, I walked out into the living room and I asked my roommate, I was like, because it registered to me that my sister doesn't live with me, you know? And I was like, was Megan here? And she was like, no. And I called my sister and was like, were you here earlier? And she was like, no. And I was like, I swear you came into my room and woke me up. And she didn't. She wasn't there. A part of me could have kind of wrote that off as me being half asleep, but the whole thing of me waking up and my like wrapped up in my blanket, that kind of solidified for me that that was probably not fake.
I agree 100% that wasn't fake, and the thing with mimics, I think they, like, mimic voices and stuff and mimic people. I've never heard of a mimic actually physically touching someone unless I missed something
I haven't
in,
either.
like, mimic lore. That's fascinating to me and absolutely terrifying, to be honest with you. What do you think that thing was? I know you said it was a mimic, but it sounds like after all of these experiences, do you think it's the same thing that kind of messed with you from your youth all the way up to, that instance where you kinda bolted out of the apartment?
I do right now, like as I'm thinking about it. I have felt that spirit that I knocked on my window before many times, but it's never presented itself to me, especially I don't think it can because of how much I've changed my life. I believe that I know that it can't, like I just have that feeling inside of me, but I know that it lingers around me, right? Like, I know that it's my cravings when I get cravings. Like, I'm obviously in recovery, like, it still happens to this day, right? Like, I'll get drug cravings. And I know that that's probably not me, right? And I know that when I have like dark thoughts about myself, that's probably not me. Also, I think she presented herself actually one more time. And so, me and my ex were in bed one time, and actually, this kept happening. I kept hearing this singing, right, of this woman, and it was this really weird singing, and I've been hearing it for so long.
Okay, you're back, but
I'm
I'm
back.
gonna say one thing.
Okay.
My previous guest, Nori, when she started sharing this and talking about stuff, that happened.
That's so
That
weird.
same thing happened.
That's so weird. See, it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird, and I have, like, nothing but goosebumps right now.
That is so creepy. Right when I was about to tell you about her too. It's always felt to me, I mean, I heard that she was feminine. I don't think that it's actually female. Because I don't think that I really truly believe that whatever this is demonic. It feels so terrible. Like, I'll see it in my dreams a lot. I have insane nightmares, and I have them every single night. It's crazy. But I'm now just desensitized to them. But what was happening this time is me and him were in bed, and after us forever, I've been hearing this humming sound, and I still hear it to this day, just not as much of this. It sounds like this, like it sounds like like it'll get like really high and then really low and
Really
then
low.
yeah. So, and I kept hearing that, and we were in bed one day, and I heard it, and it was getting a little loud. And at this point, he does not believe in the paranormal. He's an atheist. And I looked at him, and I was like, "Do you ever hear humming at night?" And he was like, "Yeah, all the time." And I was like, "What? What is it back?"
Yeah, we're back.
Jeez
Alright.
Louise.
Listeners and hopefully video people watching, this happened with Nori on the Jin episode when she was talking about Jin and her experiences. It happened twice, and now with you, this is the second time. And coincidentally, you started talking about the same topic again. So I don't know if it's a Wi-Fi thing. I don't know if it's StreamYard being weird on a phone or something like that. But to happen twice in a row, I don't know what that means. But where you left off, you said that, your ex basically said, like, yeah, I heard it too. And what happened after that?
I said, "You don't believe in the paranormal. You're telling me that you're hearing humming?" He goes, "It's probably the neighbors." I said, "At 2 o'clock in the morning, the neighbors are singing through our vents." We lived in New York City, downtown Manhattan, literally in the financial districts. The walls are so thick in those buildings. It was a super nice building. And the walls are super thick. You can't hear anyone. Like, we never heard our neighbors talk, walk, cough, nothing. And I'm like, we can't hear them do absolutely anything ever, but we hear them hum at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning every night. He's like, I don't know, maybe we're both hearing stuff. Science driven in every way, shape, or form. So I was like, okay, whatever. When I asked him that, it wasn't like in the middle of the night. I had just asked him, like, hey, do you hear humming in the night? Because it had gotten really loud. Did I say that?
Pretty loud, yes.
Yeah, it had gotten like a little bit louder. So I asked him that. So then I get up, right? And I'm starting to film because I had to film something. And he is still laying in bed. And all of a sudden, I'm filming and I hear him like making this really weird mumbling sound. And I realize that the sound he's making, he's trying to say my name, but he can't say it. And I realize he's probably having sleep paralysis, like that sound that you can kind of make when you have sleep paralysis. And so he doesn't really have sleep paralysis. And I get up and he's calling my name. He's like, Kajsa, Kajsa, like that. And I finally get up and I shake him, and he like goes, "Oh my god." And he starts laughing, and I'm like, "What is so funny?" And he was like, "I just had the scariest sleep paralysis." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Some woman was standing above me, like some really tall woman with dark hair was standing above me. Her mouth was gaped open and there was blood coming out of it, and she was just screaming at me. And I was like, Jesus, Mike. And we were just talking about like the humming. And I was like, that's insane. So it gets crazier, right? I'm like, that is wild. And I'm like trying to, I'm like, there's no point at this point in trying to convince him that this is paranormal because he's just not going to believe me. So he thinks it's funny, right? I have no idea how he thinks it's funny. And I go and I sit down and I start filming again. And suddenly he's like, Kajsa, I need a towel. I need a towel. And his nose is just bleeding like crazy. And I'm like, what is going on? And I had to give him a towel. His nose was bleeding for like 20 minutes. And I'm talking like like bleeding. And when he saw her, there was blood coming out of her mouth.
I have nothing but goosebumps right now. I've had goosebumps from minute one when you
Yes.
started talking about your stories, because it's interesting. I started the podcast and I was like, it's paranormal. Maybe people will be into it. Maybe they won't. It's kind of a dime a dozen. Everybody has a haunted house story. But the more people I meet, like yourself, that had these intense experiences, the more I start to question, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Why does this happen to some people and why doesn't it happen to others? In your case, you said it was your ex-boyfriend. He was purely scientific. It's like there's got to be an explanation for this. He gets sleep paralysis and then he starts having a nose. How do you explain that? I'm the type of person that thinks that coincidences, there is
Don't
no
exist.
coincidence.
Yeah, me
No,
too.
that does not exist. It's because I parroted this story so many times. I was recording an episode with my cousin, and when she started talking about the haunted house that we grew up in and she would visit frequently, my cousin texts me. First he calls me and then I asshole button him. I'm text him. I'm like, "Hey, I'm doing a recording. I'll talk to you later." And he sends me a picture in his car with a selfie in front of the old house we used to live in, the haunted house. And nobody knew that this was happening. Nobody knew we were talking about this topic. And it's one of those
That's
things I'm like,
crazy.
how does it know? How do they know? Like, how does all that shit line up so perfectly at the same time that things like that happen?
That's the type of coincidences that happen to me a lot. Like those type of coincidences.
When you try to explain it, you get the people that are skeptical. I know, like with your page, Kajsa Spooky Stories, you get quite a few people that send you stories.
Yeah.
And when you're going through those stories, you kind of get a feel for like, okay, this is bullshit and this is legitimate, but I'll still share it out there, just to be respectful. Doing this type of stuff, you're able to pick up on that frequently.
Yeah.
But the thing for me is it's like you start thinking about this more, you start thinking about like what could it be? And it just you never have an answer. You just start getting more and more questions. And then I always find it entertaining when people that don't believe finally get an experience. And then it's like they finally realize, one, you're not hallucinating. There is no gas leak. And we're not being facetious. We're not bullshitting you. There's literally stuff that goes on that we can't explain. So
Yeah.
I always find that entertaining.
And it is. And what's crazy is even after that happened, he was like, it's a coincidence. That's exactly what he said. It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. I was like, okay.
There's no hope for you.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no
I
none.
like, there's nothing I could do for you now.
Check out Jaunty Haunts, a podcast all about the supernatural, hosted by Courtney, the self-proclaimed seer who, after 30 years of keeping it quiet, is finally sharing her secret with the world. She sees ghosts. Each episode, she dives into eerie encounters, true tales of the seen and unseen, and welcomes guests to share their own experiences with the paranormal. It's spooky, funny, and surprisingly relatable. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, you'll find something to love. You can listen to Jaunty Haunts every Monday wherever you get your podcasts. You won't want to miss it.
So, Kaisa, we've had a plethora of technical issues. So it sounds like something does not want you to share your stories tonight. So what I want to do is segue into a couple of other questions I have for you. One about your family. I know we started talking about that. You started sharing that both of your parents were open to the paranormal and your mom was like more spiritual and receptive of this stuff.
Yeah, well, my dad is too. And my dad was also, he's also in recovery and he was really bad for many years. And so I think a lot of his experiences were because of how severe his addiction was, because it was really bad. My mom hasn't really had that many experiences. She just believes in it because of like me and I guess her family growing up. And my sister has had experiences too. My sister has had crazy experiences. In fact, it was like a week and a half ago. My sister, she has this dream that one of her coworkers ends up dying. And this dream, for some reason, really weighed heavy on her, so much so that she tells her husband about it, right? Then, about 3 days later, the person who she had a dream, let's call him Kevin, about, and her boss comes up to her and says, "We haven't heard from Kevin for 3 days. He hasn't shown up to work for 3 days." And my sister's heart just dropped because she had just had this dream that he had died. And she messages me and my mom. She's like, "This is crazy. I like had this dream and now no one knows where he is." And they couldn't find him for like 3 or 4 days. It was so unlike him not to show up to work. And it turned out that he ended up being hospitalized for something severe. He was okay, but she had a dream right before it happened that he died. And thank God he didn't die, but he was hospitalized directly after that dream. So she has weird stuff happen to her, and she had something really scary happen to her when she was younger. That was more like ghost oriented, but she's definitely susceptible too.
So does she like see things as well? Kind of like same as you, like you guys have some sort of like clairvoyance.
This is the first one that I've heard of her having like a dream where she kind of predicted something. But yeah, when she was younger, she had seen stuff. And I wanted to make something clear. I can't call myself like a clairvoyant. I was told by more than one medium that did not know each other that I was clairvoyant. And I've always kind of known, but clairvoyant is seeing. And I have never, I've seen things like when my eyes are closed. You've probably seen that story of that woman when I saw that woman with my eyes closed. It was on my page. But I've never actually like had my eyes open and like seen something in front of me. I've been told I'm clairvoyant, but I have never seen anything before with my eyes open.
Is that something you're receptive to? Do you think you would want to be able to tap into that ability? Or do you think based off of what you've experienced throughout your life, you would rather keep that at arm's length?
I would want to tap into it. And I've thought about tapping into it quite a few times. I'm just so busy right now that actually the only thing really stopping me from doing it. I do think that I block it out unintentionally, subconsciously, because of the stuff that has happened to me. So I think that if I allowed myself to see things, that I would, but I think that I have an ability to block things out. So it is something that I would like to tap into at some point. Yes.
I can't see things, but I can like feel and hear things. Anytime like I go to a battlefield or like a quote unquote haunted location or a place that, bad things have happened, like my mood instantly shifts. I don't know if that's like the same case for you where you've had that experience where you may not have known that this was like a heavy presence type of area where like negativity happened, but like you ever get those instances where like you're going somewhere, you're fine, and then you just feel like so drained, like your mood is gone. You just don't want to be in that place anymore. But when you leave, it's like something like flip the light switch.
Yeah. Yeah. It has happened to me before. Yes.
I noticed that folks like us that like this topic and this realm, one, we experience a shit ton of crap that you tell people 99% of the time they're going to do the thing where they're going to deny it. They're going to do the number one thing that I hate where they call you crazy. Like I'm not going to, walk around like Ed Gein thinking I see my dead mom all the time, which my mother's still alive. But
Yeah. Yeah,
um
that one.
one thing that I did really want to touch on, which I believe you've kind of made quite a few videos on this on your Kajsa Spooky Stories TikTok page, is that you get a ton of people sending you these stories. You share these stories, Some of them, if you've come out and said like, hey, I was sent this story, I shared it, it's not legitimate, just want to let you guys know. But some stories you get, Kaisa, are like spine tingling. When you started that page, and the only reason I asked this is because like when I started the podcast, like weird shit started happening to me. Like I never had sleep paralysis before. Over the past 3 years, I've had like a couple instances of sleep paralysis. Can you go into whether things have amplified for you ever since talking about the paranormal and sharing other people's stories?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen this video, but there was a girl named Stevie, and her family were having problems with some type of demonic entity that was attached to their family through a friend of hers that had passed away that was stalking her before he died. She ended up finding out that he was attached to her, and they had seen a ton of crazy stuff, and they were going through all this crazy stuff. She sent me like all this evidence of all this stuff happening. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I very first got the story, I was kind of skeptical because of the details of the story, which I don't like to be that way with stories, but it was like a lot. It was a lot of bad stuff happening to this family. My skepticism stopped when I started telling her story. It was multiple videos, and I started experiencing things immediately. So, for instance, the craziest thing that happened was, let me try to remember exactly what happened. So I remember waking up in the middle of the night to something literally tapping on something. Like I was laying down and something tapped on the top of my foot like this. 1, 2, 3, like that. Tapped on my foot, but I wasn't like asleep. I don't know if I just said I was asleep. I wasn't asleep. I was laying down, like getting ready to fall asleep, and something just tapped on my foot 3 times, to the point where I screamed. And my boyfriend was laying right next to me, and I screamed, and he was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like he got mad because it scared him too. And I was like, "Something just tapped my foot. Something just tapped my foot. Something just tapped my foot." Later on, I'm sleeping. I wake up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember I looked at the time. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. My foot was burning so bad. It was the top of my foot. It hurt so bad. I had to take pain meds for it. Like I had to take like 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. And I was just up, like almost in tears. It hurt so bad. So the next day, Stevie messages me and she's like, "Something crazy happened to me last night." I'm already getting goosebumps from this. She's like, "Something crazy happened to me last night. I have to talk to you about it." Because she would like message me when things would happen. And I was like, "Okay, what happened?" And she goes, "I woke up in the middle of the night," and she sends me a picture of her foot, and her foot is red. And she's like, "I woke up in the middle of the night and I swear to God, something attacked me." Like, she's like, "My foot hurt so bad." At that point, when she sent me that message, I was like, "There's no way. There's no way." And then I said, "What time? What time?" And she was like, 3 o'clock. And I was like, "There's no way that happened. No way." That's when I started to get scared, because I was like, I don't want this. And that's when I started like really truly believing everything that had happened to this family. That wasn't all. I actually have this on video. I actually posted the video. I was doing a video for my other page. And this was actually, I think, before this incident happened. I was doing a video for my other page, and in the video, I'm showcasing a bra, and I turn around and you hear somebody in the video say something like, they said something about clothes, or me not wearing clothes, or me putting clothes on, or something. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was a man's voice in the background that clearly said something about me wearing clothes. Didn't say my name, but something about clothes. And I have it posted on my TikTok. You can hear it so clearly, but there was nobody in my apartment. There's no one in my apartment. So when I played it back to edit it, and I heard that voice so clearly, I had to like turn it up and listen to it like 5 times. I just kept listening to it over and over. And I was like, "There's no way that I'm hearing this." So I posted it on TikTok. It's on there. You can go watch it. And you hear the man's voice, and it sounds like a normal man's voice. It's not scary. It sounds like a 28-year-old man's voice. And that was all happening when I was dealing with this family. And that stopped after I stopped dealing with this family. But there was also a time when I was on a live. It was either a live or a video. I don't remember. And I had a vape sitting next to me and it flew off the table in front of everyone. Like everyone heard it. Everyone saw it. It like flew off the table as I'm talking, telling the scary story. And it happened right when I was talking about my friend who passed away, which was the person who lived upstairs from me in that studio apartment. He ended up passing away during COVID. And as soon as I mentioned him in my story, that vape flew off the shelf.
In that instance, with the vape flying off the shelf, talking about your friend that passed, and I'm sorry to hear that. Do you think that might have been him, like coming back, be like, "Hey, you're talking about me," and just maybe giving, acknowledging that, or did you feel like that was weird?
I felt like that was weird.
So you, interacted with Stevie, and then it just abruptly stopped.
Well, I
So
didn't ever say see you later because I didn't want to do that to her, but it dwindled out because we just kind of lost touch and something
yeah,
happened with her family. So I didn't ever tell her like, hey, we can't do this anymore. It kind of like we just parted ways eventually.
like naturally on its own,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like as soon as that happened, stuff stopped for you. They say like some people are haunted as opposed to like just a place. Do you think, like, given that you were told a few times, like, hey, you're kind of clairvoyant, and you said you wanted to tap into that further in the future, one of my previous guests, Dave, the bearded menace, he said that some of us kind of like are a beacon of light in just a dark place for these things, and that's why they're attracted to us. Do you think that might be the case for you, that you're validating these people's stories by sharing them on your page to millions of people, thousands of people, and at the same time, not only are you validating the people sharing this with you, but you're validating their experience and whatever those things were that interacted with them. And those things know that, hey, Kaisa's had experiences before. She can kind of feel us. She can kind of see us. Maybe we should, go and pop in. What are your thoughts on that concept?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that because one time I went to go get a Reiki session done, and I had never done Reiki before. Me and my friend went. After I was done with the Reiki session, the woman goes, "Did someone pass away recently with you?" And I said, "No." And she was like, "Because you have so much light around you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, you have so much light around you." When I was doing your Reiki session, she's like, and sometimes that happens when like someone loses a loved one very recently. And I said, I didn't. So I don't know. She's like, you just do. You should know that. And I said, okay. And then I asked my friend, I was like, did she say anything to you after you were done with the session? And she was like, no. And I told her what she said. And she was like, why didn't she say that to me? And I was like, I don't know. So maybe that could be why. And especially because, yes, I am telling these people's stories, people who are scared to tell their own stories, people who are afraid to feel crazy. And when I tell their stories, especially on my page, I have such a loving community on my page, which is so amazing. I am so lucky to have that because not a lot of creators get to have that. And so they're very validated on my page. And so that could definitely be the case. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know for me, like, I share these stories, I speak to all these people, and there's some instances, Kaisa, where I'll be laying in bed and like it'll be like 2 in the morning, and it's like I'm laying there and it's like something tells me, I got the TV on. Look look into your doorway. And it's like I don't want to look into my doorway.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
And then you ever get those instances like where you're just sitting there doing something, like me, I could be editing or something like that. And then like you just briefly turn and then there you see like this shadow go like whoop whoop.
Yes, that happens to me frequently. And it's funny because sometimes I wonder if it's my eyelashes.
And
Well,
other times I'm like, no, I definitely just saw it. It happens to me a lot. I think us sharing these types of things absolutely brings in a certain amount of energy. That's why it's so important to protect yourself, you know? People will always say, make sure you're like whatever you pray to or whoever you pray to, you know, I don't know who you believe in. If you believe in anything, well, I'm sure you do because you believe in the supernatural, but whatever that is, like pray to that thing or that
yeah,
being
I
or what.
always got this with me. I'm
Yeah.
not afraid anymore.
Yeah. I usually have like crystals in my pocket, or I'll wear a cross necklace, or I'll just say a prayer before and after my stories.
Yeah, so that actually goes perfectly into what I was going to ask next about like your personal beliefs and your spiritual or religious upbringing. Were you kind of left to your own devices where you could kind of believe what you wanted, or did you kind of like most of us here in the States have like a Christian, a geared background?
No, my religious background is crazy. My mom is the best. She really is truly like such a wonderful human being. And she, when we were younger, told us from a very young age, you do what you feel comfortable with. My whole family, most of my family on my mom's side, well, they all are, except for her twin sister is Catholic. The rest are Mormon because we lived in Salt Lake City. So not Mormon in the sense that people think. Mormon is very people think that Mormon is like this polygamous culture. I have been around Mormons my whole life. I've never met a polygamist in my whole life. I was born in Salt Lake City, but I was baptized as a Mormon, but as soon as I got baptized, I never went to church again. So growing up, because of the things that I saw in the Mormon church and because of some things that happened with my grandfather, because he was not a good person and he was extremely religious. So if you could put two and two together, he was like one of those like really, really, really religious people that
Right.
does really bad things and they use religion as their like
Justification.
yeah. I did not like religion. So actually didn't believe in God for a while. And then when I turned like 19, 20, I started to believe in God. And now I fully believe in God, but I don't believe in religion. I don't like religion. I would call myself spiritual. So the God that I pray to is just somebody who I believe created all of us. I
Right.
don't think that he is like, you know, I don't necessarily know if everything in the Bible is true, you know, all that stuff. I just believe in something and I don't know what it is, but I know that it has helped me many times.
Right. And I think that's fair. You know, we all have things that work for us in this paranormal world. To me, it is what it is, you know. I know there are some people that you're either watching or listening won't agree with us, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's entitled to their own. The other question that I had for you, Kaisa, have you ever dabbled with tarot or Ouija boards, or what are your thoughts on those tools in general?
Tarot, I don't have any thoughts. I don't know enough about it. So I cannot, I can't say. Ouija boards, I have never played with an actual Ouija board, but I've created a Ouija board and played with it when I was living in a sober house in Jamaica, Queens. And nothing happened. Nothing. And nothing happened afterwards. So it was just like we tried playing it. It was kind of like fun. We used like a shot glass and a piece of paper. But then nothing happened and nothing happened afterwards. I was experiencing some stuff during that time already, but nothing like amplified or anything. So I believe that there are proper ways to use Ouija boards that professionals who have used them before and know what they are doing and have been doing it a very long time and taught by someone who has been doing it a very long time, I believe there may be a proper way to use it, but I don't think most of society should be touching it.
I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, it was a game, it's mass produced," but I think there's something to it.
Oh, I
There's
definitely think there's something to it.
And if you do it incorrectly, it could open up some portals. A cousin of mine who played with the Ouija board in Canada has had like a shit ton of like experiences with that. I'm trying to get him on the show, been trying to get him to at least email me some stories, but no luck yet. So, Sean, if you're listening, asshole, you will come on the show. And if you have stories, dude, you should send them to Kajsa. But
Yes, please.
but Kajsa, I do want to be respectful of your time. I know we've had quite a few technical issues, which I did say, with my previous guest that happened before when she started sharing her stories, and you're not the first to have that happen. So thank you for, bearing with me
Of
through those
course.
issues. Why don't you share with the listeners where they could find you on TikTok, on your spooky story page, and all the other things you're doing on TikTok as well?
On TikTok, it's Kajsa. It's KAJSA.spooky.store. So STOR. And then on my YouTube, it is Kajsa.spooky stories. Kajsa spelled the same way, KAJSA. And then the other TikTok is just my work, honestly. And it's just Kajsa. It's Kajsa.Zabel. But that one's not any spooky story stuff. It's literally just me marketing the entire page. So it's not really that fun. But I did want to say really quickly that you sent me a story and I have to read it tonight. I got caught up with work, but I wanted to thank you for writing that because I do really love long stories. And a 6-page story is absolutely incredible. So any long stories are great because I can put them on TikTok and YouTube.
Kajsa, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. I had a blast talking with you. I hope this experience didn't traumatize you and you are
No,
willing to come back
of course.
when my co-host Dean is back in action.
Yeah.
Listeners, he is dealing with some personal stuff. He's good, he's fine, everything's okay. Dean is not off the show. I didn't kick him off yet. But listeners, you heard Kajsa. Go ahead, give her a follow on all of her socials. Go check out her spooky stories page. If you're into buying stuff, go check out her marketing page, buy some stuff off of her. I'm sure she does a great job with that.
Thank
And
you.
folks, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you tune in for the next episode.
You've reached the end of tonight's journey on the Wandering Road. The show is written and produced by me, Chris, and my co-host, Dean. If you've got a scary story of your own, or if you'd like to join us as a guest, send your tale to twroadpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more haunted fun. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please rate, review, and share the show. It helps keep the lantern burning for fellow travelers. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road and your mind in the shadows, because the wandering never ends.